morning. I'm Victoria. This is the VictoriousWool podcast, episode 25. I recorded this once before. You won't see that. But I just didn't have a lot of energy when I recorded, and I'm trying to present not necessarily the best of myself, but just something a little bit more energetic. I do a lot of Marco Polos with other knitting friends, and those are a totally different thing than YouTube, and I think recording Marco Polos has made me way more comfortable in front of the camera. It's also made me really lax about what we talk about. We talk about anything we want, and you can just put on the video and send like an hour recording to your friend that they will knit while they're watching, kind of like a podcast. Sometimes it feels like I'm filming a podcast, but there's just like a whole other level when you're talking to people that you're not as familiar with. So I thought, since I feel sort of chatty, I would record it again and see if I can do better. I'm gonna put on this shawl really quick. This is the Floating Blossom Crescent shawl I released in February of this year. It's got all these really great cables on it. It's been a while since I talked about it. Obviously we had spring and summer, and it's definitely a winter and fall kind of deal. It has just, this is such great texture pop. The free floating blossoms with the little bobbly berries at the end. This is a cable from the Nora Gone book, knitting cable source book, which I try to look for cables in other books. I have a lot of other books. I try to look through my other books to find resources for cables, but they're just not as good as this, because I was just actually pulling a cable from it to work on yesterday. I'm like, I could find a different source, but it's always hers. So the center has a ribbed cable going all the way down that is similar to the side cables. It's done on reverse stockinette. And then the border is probably my favorite part, just because I didn't know that I was going to do it. I got down to the end and I thought, what do I want to do? And I just did these little ribbed cables at the bottom. Really, really, really cute. I probably wore this. I just pulled it out again. So, you know, when you knit a lot of things, you have a lot of finished objects. I have quite a lot of cubbies full of knitted things. I forget what I've got, and so I get in the habit of wearing a smaller collection. The knitting stack is what I call it, whatever I've been wearing that week. And so this has just not been pulled out yet during the cold season. But last year I wore a lot this way when I would be like at my desk or something. You can see the cables are just so cool. But I was thinking if I could wear it and loop it tie it in the front, because that's kind of been how I've been wearing a lot. Keep my hair out of there. That is a problem. Yeah, I'm wearing a lot of my shawls like this, just to keep them out of the way. And yeah, cute. So I don't know why I didn't think about this particular way for a really long time. I just realized it recently. So I wanted to try it with this one, and it works. It's cute. So Floating Blossom is the name. I used Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company, that's Emma Robinson, who is in Northern Ireland. And I used like, I never remember the quantities I used. I think it was 4 skeins of her DK BFL Masham, which is a amazing, wonderful yarn. I wish it was easier to get. She does have lots of shop updates. I think she just had a baby, too. I have not been paying enough attention to be confident about that, but I wish I could get it easier. Obviously didn't buy yarn for a year. If you've been watching So that's one of the reasons why I don't have much of it, but it's really, really nice yarn. It was very fun to work with. And the cable is just like, oh, I don't know if I've worked with a subtle, what do I say? Rustic yarn that showed stitch definition still really, really well. I don't know if I could have pulled off the look of this with many other yarns. I think they would have either been too muddled or too crisp, and so I was looking for the perfect kind of blend of subtle cables, and this is so beautiful. I'm pulling stuff out of my knitting basket to show you. The next design that will come out is my next design that will come out is a pair of fingerless mittens. This is the cuff. It's another cabled ribbing, which I've got a theme going. I'm intentionally using it again and again because it's really, really fun to do. And then the cable travels up the thumb, which is always kind of hard to capture on film. It goes right up the hand. I have some really good photos that I'll post on my Instagram of showing that happening. It's also really hard to do it when you're wearing it as well. And then I made the hand really, really long so that you can fold it over if you need your fingers more. And it has a cable, the same cable ribbing that's on the cuff is on the top of the hand, and it's done reverse. So you do one short row and then you start cabling on the inside. You pull the mitten inside out. And I have a whole 20-minute tutorial. I filmed a 20-minute tutorial with all the points in the process that I felt like could use a really good visual. Like when you take the thumb stitches and put them on waste yarn, I filmed that. I filmed how I cable this 6-stitch cable, because I feel like I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do a cable like the way I do it. It's not anything fancy. I just, if I'm going to move the stitches and hold them to the back of the work, I come from the back. I take the cable needle and I come from the back, and I do all this scooching movement around, because I've heard a couple people say that their hands hurt a lot when they do cables, and I've wondered why, because mine don't necessarily do hurt, and I was wondering what that was. If is that just that person and they have it's hard for their particular wrists, or if it's something about the stress of moving the stitches out of sequence and then trying to knit them that way, and that's hard on the hand. So I've actually sort of watched myself move the needles around and the cable needle around, and I'm like, does everybody do this kind of finicky stuff to make it work for them? I don't know. Maybe they do. Anyways, so when you roll it down, the reason I did that is because I work at farmers markets all year long, and it gets really, really cold if it's rainy and windy and cold at the same time, which we do get quite a lot of that kind of action going on. We need a lot of layers, and I have hand warmers that that are disposable, but I prefer to have something that, if no one's going to come by, less people come by in the winter for sure. So I don't necessarily need my fingers to grab things. Then I can flip it up, but still have access to my phone when I have to use the square reader to take transactions and stuff. So I'm thinking I will knit another pair with maybe a little bit of a shorter cuff, because you can totally shorten it if you want. Anyway, I do have two. I did knit both. I think I could probably knit one in a couple of days. They're very quick to knit. It's a size 2, I think I used. But it was just really easy. It is some purling in the hand. I tried to do where I could do the whole thing inside out. That didn't kind of work out with the way the physics of knitting. But it ends up being not that much time. So I hope that you love them. I knit them on a really rusticy wool because I'm trying to move myself in that direction. The things I published this year were this guy, Rustic Yarn, Meridian Lines, Rustic Yarn, has a rustic look. It's super soft still. And this is Custom Woolen Mills from Canada. That It's a farmy yarn and probably the most rustic, which is perfect because like you don't need your hands to have like something super soft. So the place I feel it maybe would be like on the wrist a little bit, which is if you made it a little shorter, if you were more sensitive to more rustic wools. They softened up incredibly in washing. So I was amazed actually how much softer it got after blocking. Anyways, I'm gonna maybe knit it up in a superwash pair with some color just to like give people another option, because a lot of people have those kinds of yarns. They don't necessarily collect this, but this is just where my aesthetic is going. I'm purposefully moving in that direction. Doesn't mean I'll never publish something like bright and colorful again. I have obviously lots. This whole bag of Homespun House soft yarn that I look at occasionally going, ooh, there's lots of minis, because I was on her Patreon and I go back on her Patreon a lot of the time too. But you get all these colors. Definitely need to knit some colorful socks soon. And there's no reason why why you couldn't do these in a heavy speckle. I think the cables are subtle anyway, so they would be subtle in a speckly color. So I'm gonna put out a testing call as soon as I get my pattern back from my tech editor. So if you're interested in testing that, or just interested in testing for me in general, I should probably start a list of people that want to do it in the future. I feel like when you're this small, it's hard to get people interested at the right time. Like people are interested, but their schedules have to work out with my schedule. I was gonna maybe do it in December, but it's Christmas and people are doing Christmas knitting, and so I'll probably put the call out either right after Christmas or in January. So I don't want to disrupt what people have going on. The other thing, is it over there? Yes, I see it. Hold on just a sec. I finished the Glamper Mittens. I've been working on these for a while. It's this little camping trailer. There's a little fire with some smoke, a little path to the trailer, bushes, trees, a starry sky, and a moon. There is a mountain scene, but I had to take it out because I knit these in DK when the pattern calls for fingering, and this is the backside. So beautiful. I love really like short color work like this because I can do it really well. The stuff where you have longer or just like different combinations of the colors, like you do 6 and then you do 3 and then you do 5 and then you that's harder to get like consistent color work. This I do beautifully. So it's always my favorite part of any pattern that has color work, when you do like 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1, and it gets really good. The other things I did differently is I didn't do the stripes on the cuff, and I didn't do any color work on the thumb because I did have a difficult time doing color work in a small circumference with double points or magic loop, and I thought that's just gonna totally be what the thumb is, and it was really holding me back from finishing. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it black, and I'm really happy that I did because it looks really cute. I did make both. I also blocked them before I added the thumb because I knew that I needed to see the mittens, like I needed to see them finished and nice before I was really going to be able to do the thumb. So I could block the thumbs, but I probably won't. I also made the thumbs different sizes. I think on the second one I was like, yeah, I'm done. I can just do a couple rows less, or it looks close enough. Sometimes it's just really hard to measure. They're also slightly different sizes. One is longer than the other. You know, I am an emotional person. I am an emotional knitter, so my gauge is, you know, just slightly different on things like this. But yeah, I love them. They're also going to be probably a farmer's market thing when it gets super cold. You know, it's like 30 degrees outside, and we're outside for like 5 hours. You need like double layer DK stuff, especially if no one's going to come by. I think I could pick up containers of cheese with this and give it to people. That's what I do. I sell goat cheese for a small farm. I don't do any of the processing or anything. I just get to sell it. And it's cold. What I was thinking recently, and I think I've talked about this before somewhere with someone. in the knitting community, that when I agreed to do winter markets, I had this whole vision of what I was going to wear at winter market, and a lot of it had to do with Lopi. I was like, I'm going to make these Lopi sweaters that I'm super, super warm, and I didn't make those Lopi sweaters that I had in my mind with the Lopi that I got for that. Though that Lopi is still waiting. I did, however, make 5 or 6 Lopi sweaters, like within the past couple years, that I often wear at market. I have featured a lot of them on Instagram. I did like a whole, I think there's this Landic wool month that Tolt does, Tolt Yarn and Wool. It's like February, I think. And so I did a lot of I did a whole photo shoot of all the Lopi sweaters that I have. And every once in a while I realized like, oh, like I had this idea of what I wanted to have for my wardrobe for market, and I did it. Not exactly how I envisioned it, which it never is anyway, but I actually did it. So anyway, this isn't Lopi, but it will fit right along with my Lopi sweaters. The other works in progress I have, I'm doing the Flaum. We published an Amirisu. Let me see if I can pull up the designer's name from this pattern real quick. I think it's Justina Lorkowska. Hope that's close. And it's Flaum, Flaum. And it's a little open cardigan. And the construction is like super fun. And let's see if am I in the middle of a row? I'm not. That's amazing. I'm always in the middle of a row when I want to show somebody something. Let me make it a little bit wider. See if I can just capture it on camera a little bit. So there's got the collar that I'm now working with the body, and there's little sleeves. Yeah, it's looking good. I've been having a hard time knitting lately. I've been focusing on work a lot this year, and knitting less. I saw one of the people I follow on Instagram is Elise Blaha Crisp, and she's an organizational goal focused person. And she had said recently that you can't keep adding on activities into your life, you have to subtract things. And that made so much sense to me because I have read less this year, listened to audiobooks less this year, and knit less this year because I added in this whole Korean language thing, which really just means I watched a lot of K-drama. And I did take one Korean class, and I am definitely going to continue going. It's slow because I'm also busy working. But I've done less other activities because I'm just watching a lot of TV, and I'm super happy about it. I don't know if anybody out there needs like permission to just be totally okay with watching a lot of TV. I'm the person to do that for you, because a lot of folks around where I live kind of like don't have TVs out in their living rooms. Maybe they like cover them with a cloth, or they're very like screen focused and everything. And that's all great. And I'm kind of making fun of it a little bit when I say that, but I just don't care right now. I really enjoying what I'm watching. I'm not watching all this like violent, angry, like hard American stuff. State of American television right now is just really it's not inspiring. It's not heartwarming. It's not hopeful. And certainly there is that kind of stuff in Korean TV as well, but there's a lot of really happy things and sweet things, and I'm just really enjoying learning about the culture more, and that's what I've been doing with my time. So there are plenty of evenings where I'm like, I could knit, or I could just, rest and watch this, read subtitles for a while. So, and that will not always be the case. That's why it took me so long to finish the Glamper Mittens, because I couldn't do small circumference color work while watching and reading subtitles. And I've also been doing a lot of my own things. I have a collaboration coming out next year in like June that I couldn't talk about or show. I did that project, I did Meridian lines, and I did this mitten project all kind of back to back. And I'm actually really amazed that I did all that work. And anyway, So that's why I haven't been knitting a lot. The last thing I want to show you is this. This is a swatch that I did yesterday. This is a big juicy fat cable from that cable source book, and this is Lopi. This is Let Lopi. Let's see if I can find a color. I think it's 57. It's like the medium, one of the medium grays. It's funny that I don't have the, I'm really intense about keeping the labels. I will be talking about it more as time goes on, and I won't have this color down. But I wanted to do something outside of the box. Lopi's traditionally for sweaters. I think it could be traditionally for other things. I see it a lot for sweaters. And so I was like, well, what about a shawl? What about like more of a rustic-y shawl? Would that be okay next to the skin? All these concerns about, you know, but it's just such a warm wool, and I have that high tolerance, I think, now for wools, especially if it's really cold. So I did a little bit of garter ridge. I did garter proper down here, and then I just did every fourth one up here just to see. I'm playing around with it. This is a swatch, so that's what you do. And I think I'll pull it off needles and block it today and see. I need, of course, obviously, like some gauge numbers to work with. And I also am going to play with the construction a little bit today and knit another swatch and see how I need to, you know, figure out the decrease rate. All the decisions that need to be made, you know, that require really swatching and a gauge. So I can make choices like, how big do I start out with? How small do I start out with? Do I have enough yarn? Do I like how this is going to look? Because once I start a big piece, I don't want to have to change. All of a sudden, it's like not looking how I thought, and I have to change my mind and stuff. So this is just really, really fun. And what I'm thinking of doing is a triangular shawl with the ridges on the side. There's just so much texture in this yarn. It's a similar thing as this. It's a similar thing as Meridian Lines. This yarn too. The yarns themselves have texture. They're not like this smooth, flat surface that you create with knitting, that you can then do all these other texture patterns and stuff on top. Or adding colors and all kinds of different things. They don't really need that. They already have it built in to the yarn. So it just necessitates like simpler knits, which is just wonderful. And you know, there are a lot of cables in that source book that are just so cool, and you do all these little things. And I thought, no, I just need something really big. I want it to be really big and juicy, and then maybe some tassels on the corners and stuff. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm happy that it is the first thing I swatched, and I didn't have to go through a lot of iterations to get to this point. And I think one of the things I've been doing now is like, I have this notebook, Happy Yellow, and I like have an idea, and then I draw a picture, and then I start asking questions. Well, like what? And the questions specifically that I asked for this were, do I like this cable in this yarn? I need to ask that question of myself specifically. Do I like it? Do I like the garter, or do I want to the garter, or do I want to spread it out with just the ridges being further apart? It's hard to tell. Yeah, there you go. Which one do I like? Which one would look good in a bigger piece? Because I kind of have to then imagine, or I just need to knit more. Do I like the fact that I did a couple of, see, there's this like dip. It doesn't just go from this to this. There's actually like an indent. That's a couple of purl stitches that are kind of sucking themselves to the back of the work, that are really giving space and highlighting that big cable. And I didn't know it was going to look like this. I just knew that I probably needed what I call buffer stitches in between your edge and your center cable. Do I like that? Was one of the questions I wrote in my notebook. And the other question is like, how do I do this? I have this increase rate or decrease rate thing question in my mind. how do I do that? And then I write an action step. Why don't I try swatching with this, da, 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 da. And so then I literally have like a mapped out plan where I've asked questions that I need to answer, and I have an action step on how I can answer them. It's so great to get all that stuff I'm thinking about out of my head and onto the paper, and then I can take action. Because that's really where I get stuck. Is it, what do I do next? I guess there's no one else telling me coming along, well, Victoria, this is how you design a pattern. This is the next step. I have to like do it myself. And that's great for self-motivated people who find that really easy to do. And I am not that person. So I have to go to what I view as really extreme organizational methods to get that to happen. So, today and yesterday were the first days off I've had 3 weeks. I was writing this pattern. I graded this pattern for 5 different hand sizes, from like women's extra small or like bigger teen to men's extra small, really women's extra large. And I hadn't graded anything since Zever, or, well, I have some sock patterns, maybe. Maybe the Snowy Dream socks was the last pattern I graded. But I want to do Excel spreadsheets. I have all these grading programs that I've purchased online. There's a lot more grading information out there now than when I first started designing, like loads more. Like I have 3, maybe even 4 different programs I signed up for over the years that I hadn't actually gone through because I wasn't grading anything, that are specifically about grading sweaters, the Sister Mountain, Tian Connaughton, the Tech Editor Hub, and then was there one more? Sister Mountain's sweater class, and then also her blog posts that I think if you want to become a knitting designer, her blog posts are awesome. So I followed specifically this time her blog post on how to estimate the amount of yarn you need for the different size mittens, and just learned a lot, and have these beautiful spreadsheets that have all this information in them, and just like super excited about that aspect. I really like technical writing. Pattern writing is, you may have noticed, like something I get really passionate about. Who knew that would be something? It kind of makes sense with the whole language thing. I really enjoy learning Korean. Because I think language itself is really exciting, whether it's English, technical English, or technical knitting English, or Korean is just super fun. I also learned how to do schematic for the first time. I used Inkscape, and I used a template from the Tech Editor Hub to get me started, and then I was like moving stuff around, so I have like a really nice template and a really nice schematic, and I feel like the pattern is some of the best like technical writing or technical achievement that I've been able to do, and I changed some formatting things. Anyway, I was working on that for about 2.5 weeks to get all of that stuff done, and I was on a pretty tight schedule, which I won't bore you with. I want to say though that doing exercise and yoga in the midst of a really lot of work hours is absolutely 100% essential. Someone had said, well, maybe because I had done yoga like 6 days in a row or something, and I was super tired, not from the yoga. And they were like, well, maybe you should just stop doing so much yoga. And I was like, no, I can't do I can't do 7 to 8 hours of computer work if I'm not practicing yoga in the middle of the day. Anyway, I've just been working a lot, and really happy with achieving that stage of the project. And today and yesterday are my like first official days off, and of course I did some work, which I'm super happy about, but it was because I chose to. Those are my kind of days off situation. Is like I need to freely choose what I want to do. If I want to watch a lot of TV, if I want to spend time with my family, it really has to be like whatever I want, as opposed to the schedule. So I will go back to work tomorrow and we keep moving on with things like this, hopefully. I'm hoping that this will be maybe a little quicker turnaround time than something like the mittens. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and that you're excited for something in December happening, whatever holiday or non-holiday would be. If it's solstice, you have a good time. I'm excited about, there's a little hanging advent thing I got from Celicia at the Market is her username account, where she's the tassel maker. Hope you're okay, Celicia, being called that, the tassel maker. I have a bunch of these. She's been making stitch markers. Let me see if I've got this little coffee cup. Yes, I do. It's got little dots on it. It's really cute. I have probably, I don't know, 6 of her tassels, a couple of her stitch markers. You get like a little, I've shown it on here before, you get like a little set. You get like a couple tassels and then like a couple stitch markers together. Anyways, I believe what's in this advent is tassels and stitch markers. And there's 12 of these little, they look like paper mache little lights, and I hung them up. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do it like, I could do it starting on the 12th and go to the 24th, or I could start on Christmas Day and actually do a liturgical Advent celebration. If anybody is Catholic out there and understands that. I need to read more about it. I have Around the Year with the Von Trapp family, Maria Von Trapp, who was Austrian and came to the United States and found that that people were not following the European traditions like they had been in Austria. And so she wrote a book about, hey, this is what we do, and this is Advent, and this is Christmas, and all through the whole year. And I need to pull that book out. It was highly recommended to me. Just so I understand what things are, and that Christmas is not just over on the 25th for some folks. And I grew up, my mom was born in Germany, and she grew up in the United States. And we do things like, we do Advent, lighting a candle every Sunday, the 4 Sundays before Christmas. And Saint Nick comes on the night of the 5th and puts something in our shoes, and we open our presents on the 24th. So there's a little bit of difference between what most American families, well, what the common American Christmas is different than how I celebrated it growing up. And I'm just interested in more traditional, just where we came from. I'm interested in how the holiday got to what it is, and what things started out as. But yeah. But you'll see me before then. Definitely. I have been recording every other week for a bit, just because this is what I have to do to get this up. And this is what happened if anybody saw that, I really wanted everybody to watch the last episode, because I spent at least 5 hours trying to get it up to YouTube. I have to go to the library for the upload speeds. I live on a tiny little island that some places on the island just don't get good internet, and the upload speeds have to go through like this tiny little channel. And if I try to upload a video, like this is going to be something about 35 minutes now, it'll take like all night to upload to YouTube. And I go to the library, it takes like 5-10 minutes. So I got stuck because I was trying to export the video in iMovie. I had to export it 3 different times, and it was only exporting like half the quantity of minutes. It wasn't doing the whole thing. So I was persistent because I really liked the video I made. And I'd finally found a theme music that I want to use every time. I'm kind of playing around with theme music, and it was a good episode, and I really wanted to make sure it got out. And I'm hoping this time around is a little better. So that's why I try to make shorter videos. It's like less time to render and to get up there. But anyways, yes, you'll see me before Christmas, hopefully at least once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. I guess it depends on what I've got to say, but I hope you're doing well, and you'll see me later. Bye.